right here this afternoon and on live television at gunpoint, ordered consumer reporter David Horowitz to read a message live on television.
The gun was a precise replica, and police, who by then had entered the facilities, made plans to deal with the situation. But when the statement had been read, the gunman placed the gun on the desk and anchorman John Beard grabbed it.
Millions of viewers have watched live television turn into real danger without warning.
And it's slowly from the top.
One moment, the broadcast is normal, and the next, something terrifying appears on screen. From a priest drifting to his death on live TV, to a man calmly confessing to arson.
A Rockville man on the scene of a house fire today just walked up to police and said he set the fire.
Me, I set it on fire.
And a missing child found during a live interview.
Son has been found alive in your basement.
What?
Yes, that's what, if you could hand me that wire very quickly.
These moments shocked millions. These are the horrifying TV moments you will never forget. The flying priest, Father Adelier Antonio De Carli.
This is Reverend Adelier Antonio De Carli, just moments before he set out on an ambitious journey to fly 465 miles.
In April of 2008, millions of viewers across Brazil settled into their couches expecting a calm and predictable Sunday broadcast. The day had begun quietly, and many assumed the program would proceed like so many others. Instead, the nation witnessed something astonishing. A priest floated steadily toward the sky with a gentle and almost magical lift carried by hundreds of bright helium balloons. His name was Father Adelier Antonio De Carli. Many people already knew him as a man of deep conviction and bold imagination.
And a little rain wasn't going to keep him down.
Isn't it stubbornness flying in this rain?
There will only be good weather during my flight.
Who devoted much of his life to supporting those who lived their lives on the road. Father Adelier was determined to help long-distance truck drivers find a place where they could rest, pray, and feel protected. He dreamed of building a roadside chapel where weary travelers could recover a sense of dignity before continuing their journeys. But there was a big problem. Father Adelier lacked the necessary funds. So he embraced an idea that felt like a mixture of faith, adventure, and spectacle.
He was hoping to raise money for a spiritual rest stop for truckers.
He planned to rise into the air beneath 1,000 colorful balloons. Father Adelier intended to fly for 19 hours and capture national attention. His goal was to inspire donors to support the chapel. Many people admired the idea, even though it held undeniable dangers. Others warned him repeatedly and urged him to reconsider. But despite every warning and the morning rain, Father Adelier continued with an enthusiastic smile.
Using small, helium-filled party balloons, the Brazilian priest was looking to break the record for most hours flying balloons.
Cameras rolled as he lifted from the ground. Viewers watched a beautiful moment that felt almost like a miracle. The wind carried him gently at first, but then the wind suddenly strengthened and the flight took a frightening turn. Air currents pushed him toward the open ocean. Father Adelier rose much higher than expected. He reached nearly 19,000 feet and then descended in sudden drops that would terrify even the bravest person. Still, he remained calm and continued to communicate with his support team. When Father Adelier finally admitted that he could not operate his GPS device, dread settled over those listening to him. His final message was a desperate plea for help.
Port authorities say the last time they heard from him, he was calling to get help using a GPS device that was tracking his coordinates.
Searchers combed the coastline. They found pieces of balloons drifting on the water. They found fragments of equipment that confirmed he had passed over the sea.
Fire department officials say they're focusing their search on the southern coast of Brazil.
They searched for days as the nation clung to the hope that the priest would be discovered alive.
The parish treasurer says she's confident the priest will be found alive.
Weeks turned into months before tugboat workers discovered his body far from shore. Brazil mourned deeply. They mourned a man who gave everything to help strangers. Carlos and the fire confession on live TV.
A man was arrested after confessing to a TV news crew that he's the one who set a house on fire.
In the 2014, a quiet and peaceful neighborhood in Maryland erupted into chaos when a massive house fire engulfed a residential street. Flames shot high above the rooftops, roaring with an intensity that sent sparks and smoke curling into the night sky. Firefighters arrived almost immediately, but the fire consumed the home with terrifying speed. More than 70 emergency responders worked tirelessly to prevent the blaze from spreading to nearby houses, creating a chaotic scene of hoses, ladders, and shouted instructions.
At a point where we couldn't stay in anymore. It was just too much fire in the walls, and the roof was compromised.
Neighbors gathered on the sidewalks, shouting warnings and trying to help in any way they could. It was obvious to anyone watching that this fire was no accident. Its ferocity and strange patterns suggested something deliberate, and investigators suspected arson almost from the start.
Investigators determined an overnight house fire in Ligonier is arson.
As firefighters battled the flames, a local news crew arrived to document the disaster.
Yeah, Allison, it's surely not every day that someone walks up to you claiming to have intentionally set a house on fire.
The cameras captured the full intensity of the inferno. Then, amid all the chaos, a man suddenly appeared from nowhere and calmly approached the scene. He walked directly into the frame of the live broadcast with an unnerving composure that made him look completely detached from the fire behind him. The reporters assumed he was a concerned neighbor or a displaced resident. They could not have anticipated what would come next. The man looked straight into the microphone and declared in a matter-of-fact tone that he had set the fire himself.
Me, I set it on fire.
The news crew froze in shock. He then introduced himself as Carlos, the very man who lived in the house that was now engulfed in flames. His roommates, who had narrowly escaped before the fire reached full intensity, were safe. But the sight of a person confessing so openly on live television was surreal.
A Rockville man on the scene of a house fire today just walked up to police and said he set the fire.
When asked why he had started the fire, Carlos explained with unsettling clarity. He described the home as unlivable and claimed he had tried repeatedly to alert local authorities, but nobody cared enough to listen to him. In his mind, destroying his own house was the only viable option left.
He said he wanted to bring attention to deplorable living conditions inside the home. He said he had complained about the conditions to police, but that they didn't take them seriously.
Like that wasn't enough already, Carlos even went further to detail how he poured gasoline throughout the rooms and lit a match. Then he went out, purchased a drink, and returned to witness the destruction unfold without a single care in the world.
I just poured gasoline on the floor, set it on fire, and went to buy a drink and came back.
Investigators and viewers alike were stunned by his calm demeanor. It was only when police arrived a few minutes later and arrested Carlos that the story of his struggles emerged. He had long battled severe mental health challenges and alcoholism. His family described increasingly erratic behavior in the months leading up to the fire. The damage was estimated at more than $400,000, and the neighborhood was left shaken by the destruction and the shocking public admission. The Berlin poker heist, the robbery broadcast to the world.
German police called the gang that dramatically robbed a high-stakes poker game a bunch of amateurs who will soon be caught.
In early 2010, Berlin hosted one of the most glamorous and high-stakes events in the world of competitive poker. The European Poker Tour drew seasoned professionals, eager newcomers, and enthusiastic spectators hoping to witness extraordinary skill and claim incredible prizes. Everything seemed carefully orchestrated until a single moment shattered the carefully maintained calm. At precisely 2:15 p.m., a loud, piercing cry cut through the thick concentration of the room.
4 men armed with guns and machetes stormed in on live television Saturday afternoon.
4 masked men stormed in, and chaos erupted instantly. One of the intruders brandished a machete, sending players and waiters alike diving under tables and scattering chips and cards like leaves in a storm. The camera operators kept rolling, capturing the entire nightmare live for viewers around the world. And as it turned out, the men weren't the least interested in the players. Instead, they quickly rushed directly to the registration desk, where the tournament stored the bags of cash intended for prizes. The security guard attempted to intervene, but a frantic scuffle ensued. Despite his efforts, the thieves grabbed as much money as they could carry and fled through the lobby.
Security guards put up a fight, but the robbers got away with about $300,000 in euros.
Disappearing into the streets of Berlin with approximately $250,000. For a brief moment, the robbers thought they had executed the perfect crime. But investigators soon discovered a glaring mistake. One of the thieves had registered for the tournament under his real name to study the layout and learn the security patterns.
Investigators are checking whether an insider might have tipped off the robbers on when to try to snatch the money.
This critical error allowed police to track him down within days. He confessed and revealed the identities of his accomplices, leading to the rapid capture of all 4 men. Their prison sentences ranged from 3 to 6 years, but the cash they had stolen mysteriously vanished completely. Authorities never recovered a single dollar. Sean Nelson, the man with nothing to lose. By 1995, 35-year-old Sean Nelson had reached the lowest point of his life. He had once been a proud Army veteran, a hard-working plumber, and a man with a stable home and marriage. Over time, everything he depended on fell apart. His marriage ended in a painful divorce. His business collapsed under mounting financial problems. His home faced foreclosure. Sean started withdrawing from everyone around him. Friends said he often looked lost, tired, and broken. He felt that no one understood what he was going through. His mental health continued to decline, and he moved through each day with a growing sense of fear, frustration, and hopelessness. He saw no path forward, and the pressure never stopped building. On May 17, 1995, that pressure finally broke. Sean walked to the San Diego National Guard Armory with a quiet and determined expression. He did not choose the armory by accident. He knew what was kept inside. Heavy military vehicles sat behind the fence, unused and silent. Sean then climbed through a gap in the fence and walked directly toward an M60A3 tank. This was not a small machine. It was a 60-ton vehicle built for war. Although it had no ammunition inside, it could cause tremendous damage simply by moving. Sean used the skills he learned in the Army to hot-wire the tank. Within moments, the engine came alive, shaking the building and the ground around it. Sean then drove the tank out of the armory and into the city streets. His actions stunned everyone who saw the massive vehicle rolling through San Diego. News cameras went live as Sean crushed parked cars, destroyed traffic signals, ripped open fire hydrants, and pushed aside anything in his path.
Army tank last evening and took it on a wild ride through the streets of San Diego, crushing everything in his path.
Entire neighborhoods watched helplessly as power lines fell and roads were torn apart. The city had never faced a situation like this. Police followed closely but struggled to stop a machine built to withstand battlefield conditions. The chaos continued for almost half an hour until the tank became stuck on a concrete divider along Route 163. Officers quickly climbed onto the vehicle. They forced open the hatch and aimed their weapons at Sean. They ordered him to stop. Sean refused. The officers did not know if he had a weapon or if he planned to continue the destruction.
34-year-old Sean Nelson had been a tank crewman in the Army, but police had no idea who was at the controls until it was over.
They made a split-second decision to prevent further harm and shot Sean inside the tank, bringing the rampage to an abrupt end. The secret in the basement. The case of Charlie Bothuel. On June 14th of 2014, a quiet Detroit neighborhood was thrown into turmoil when 12-year-old Charlie Bothuel vanished without explanation.
We begin tonight with the investigation into how a 12-year-old boy was missing for more than a week.
Today, investigators are talking to Charlie himself.
Panic rippled through the community as friends, neighbors, and family members frantically searched the streets. His father, Charles, appeared distraught and desperate. He contacted police, organized search parties, and spoke to reporters, begging anyone with information to come forward.
Police officers, FBI agents here searching for my son. I knew that he was in there somehow. It's absurd.
Volunteers combed streets, knocked on doors, and checked alleys and vacant lots. Flyers covered telephone poles and windows. The community feared the worst as hours turned into days. Authorities conducted thorough searches of the house from attic to basement, even employing trained dogs. Still, no trace of Charlie could be found, and the mystery deepened with every passing hour. The case quickly drew national attention. During a live interview with Nancy Grace, Charles spoke with trembling hands and a voice heavy with grief.
Your son has been found alive in your basement.
What?
Yes, that's what, if you could hand me that wire very quickly.
He described the agony of not knowing his son's whereabouts and the constant fear that something horrible had happened. Then suddenly the host delivered words that shocked the nation. She reported that Charlie had just been discovered alive inside his own basement. The revelation struck like a lightning bolt.
Charlie, we're getting reports that your son has been found in your basement.
Charles immediately froze and stared straight ahead, unable to form a coherent response. Millions of viewers debated the expression on his face, questioning how a parent could fail to find a child hiding in their own home. The moment became one of the most discussed and viral clips in televised crime reporting. Police rushed to the residence and searched the basement again. This time they found Charlie curled behind a barricade of boxes, frightened and exhausted but physically unharmed. When questioned, Charlie revealed a disturbing truth. His stepmother had ordered him to stay hidden in the basement and threatened him if he tried to leave.
And he has not been physically hit in the last 10 days since he was placed in the basement.
She then contacted his father, pretending she had no idea where the boy was. Authorities arrested both Charles and his wife, Monique Dillard-Bothuel. Prosecutors filed multiple charges, including fourth-degree child abuse, abandonment, and failure to provide proper care.
Possible criminal charges stemming from the alleged abuse of a 12-year-old boy who is now in the care of his biological mother.
Early filings included the possibility of more serious charges if Charlie's health had been harmed, which is why early reports mentioned potential life sentence felonies. In 2016, both adults accepted plea agreements. Charles Bothuel IV pleaded guilty to misdemeanor child abuse. He avoided prison but permanently lost custody of his son. His stepmother pleaded guilty to fourth-degree child abuse, acknowledging her role in forcing Charlie into the basement and threatening him. She was sentenced to probation rather than prison, with strict conditions that included mandatory counseling and no contact with Charlie. The suspicious interview. The Lauren Giddings case. In June 2011, 27-year-old law student Lauren Giddings disappeared just days before she was scheduled to take the bar exam. Friends grew increasingly concerned when repeated attempts to reach her by phone went unanswered. They rushed to her apartment in Macon, Georgia, hoping to find her safe. Lauren's car remained parked in the lot outside, untouched. The door to her apartment was locked, and when her phone rang inside, no one answered. Panic and anxiety tightened around her friends like a vice as they stood in the corridor, calling her name, and hoping for any sign that she was safe or that someone could explain her mysterious disappearance. Then out of nowhere, Stephen McDaniel appeared. Stephen was Lauren's next-door neighbor. He was quiet, socially awkward, and usually kept to himself. Neighbors barely noticed him except for his odd habits, unusual timing, and shy demeanor. That day, however, he was different. He hovered near Lauren's friends, asking unusually detailed questions about her plans, her schedule, and her personal life. His questions, although polite, carried a subtle intensity that made some uneasy. Some found it strange, but no one could have predicted the darkness that lay behind his calm, seemingly ordinary exterior. Authorities were called to investigate Lauren's disappearance. Police canvassed the neighborhood, requesting access to nearby apartments to conduct searches and interviews. Most neighbors complied immediately without hesitation. All were eager to help find Lauren. Stephen, however, refused. He claimed that he did not like anyone entering his home and that he valued his privacy. His tone was polite but contained a firmness that was difficult to ignore. The following day, Stephen agreed to an interview.
Stephen McDaniel's bizarre performance in an interview with our affiliate station, WGXA.
He stood before the camera with calm composure, offering a soft, almost rehearsed theory that Lauren had gone jogging and might have been taken by someone unknown. His words were measured, careful, and seemed cooperative. Then the reporter, sensing tension, spoke words Stephen had not anticipated. She pointedly told him that authorities had found a body like she expected him to know something about it.
His reaction on hearing the discovery of Lauren's body immediately captured the attention of investigators.
Stephen froze, his face turned pale, his eyes widened, and his voice cracked in a way that suggested shock or guilt. He staggered backward as if the ground beneath him had disappeared. Authorities could immediately tell that he was guilty. A search warrant led police to Stephen's apartment. Inside, they found a stolen master key to the building, disturbing photographs of Lauren, and a hacksaw with traces of her DNA. A former roommate revealed Stephen's morbid fascination with committing the perfect crime and evading capture. In 2014, faced with overwhelming evidence and the certainty of a long trial, Stephen accepted a plea deal. He is currently serving life in prison. Crisis at KBC, the hostage broadcast. On an ordinary afternoon in November 1987, viewers tuned into KNBC in Los Angeles expecting the standard midday news. The broadcast was routine. Veteran consumer reporter David Horowitz was preparing for his usual on-air segment. The studio was calm. The cameras were operating normally, and the teleprompter showed the script Horowitz expected to read. Nothing suggested that anything unusual was about to occur. That changed when 34-year-old Gary Stolman suddenly walked onto the set during the live newscast. Stolman was not a station employee. He was the son of a former KNBC newsroom employee, which explained how he gained access to the building. He approached Horowitz holding what appeared to be a handgun.
The gun was a precise replica, and police, who by then had entered the facilities, made plans to deal with the situation.
Studio staff immediately froze. Stolman handed Horowitz a sheet of paper and instructed him to read it on air. The paper contained a long message reflecting Stolman's delusional beliefs. It included claims about government surveillance, identity replacement, mind control, and a belief that his parents had been replaced by imposters. It also alleged that the CIA and other government agencies were watching his every move. These statements aligned with diagnosed symptoms of severe mental illness, specifically paranoid delusions. Horowitz read the statement clearly and without interruption. He followed the instructions because he believed cooperation would prevent violence. The newsroom operated in a state of confusion. Production staff were unsure whether to cut the broadcast or allow Horowitz to finish reading. They decided not to escalate the situation and kept the cameras rolling. After approximately 30 seconds, Stolman placed the gun on the desk and raised his hands in surrender. Anchor John Beard immediately secured the weapon, and police officers entered the studio and detained Stolman.
But when the statement had been read, the gunman placed the gun on the desk and anchorman John Beard grabbed it.
Investigators later confirmed that the gun was a toy pistol.
He has been identified as Gary Stolman, and he said he never intended to harm anyone. Indeed, the gun proved a fake.
Even though the weapon was not real, the threat felt genuine to everyone in the studio. Stolman was not charged with a major felony. Instead, the court considered his history of mental illness. He was placed on probation and ordered to undergo psychiatric treatment, which included supervised care and mandatory counseling. The final show, Tommy Cooper's last performance. On April 15, 1984, more than 12 million viewers tuned in for the beloved Sunday night show, Live from Her Majesty's. They expected music, laughter, and light-hearted entertainment. What they received instead was a moment that would haunt British television forever. The evening's headliner was Tommy Cooper, a towering figure in comedy known for his signature fez, chaotic magic tricks, and endearing clumsiness.
I should have additional empty cloth, 4 live ducks. Oh. I got away again.
His performances thrived on mishaps. Every slip and stumble was part of the act, and Cooper had spent decades perfecting the art of appearing incompetent while controlling every moment with precision. Audiences loved him for this, unaware of the tremendous effort behind the comic chaos. Behind the curtain, however, life was harsher than his stage persona suggested. Cooper smoked relentlessly, drank heavily, and struggled with exhaustion from decades of constant touring. His health was deteriorating, though he concealed it behind his comedic bravado. Friends and colleagues expressed concern, warning him to rest, to slow down. But Cooper insisted that the stage was the only place where he truly felt alive. The applause, the laughter, and the connection with audiences were his lifeblood. Without it, life was heavy, grim, and suffocating. That night, he performed as always. He fumbled cards, tripped over props, and joked with the audience. He embraced his trademark buffoonery with exaggerated gestures and impeccable comedic timing. The audience cheered, oblivious to the strain he carried beneath his cheerful facade. Then, for the next magic trick, he called for his cloak.
Just a little twist like that, and they slowly drop it.
An assistant draped the garment over him. Cooper muttered a soft, "Thank you." His voice was barely audible over the applause. Then he suddenly collapsed. The audience laughed, assuming it was just another joke. After all, Tommy Cooper had mastered the art of falling down with impeccable timing. But the laughter faded into confusion when he did not get up. Backstage, panic spread like wildfire. crew members realized that Cooper was not performing. He was unconscious. The heart that had carried him through countless performances, the very symbol of his resilience, had given out. Producers cut to commercial. Stagehands rushed him to an ambulance, but despite immediate medical attention, there was nothing to be done. Tommy Cooper, 63 at the time, had suffered a fatal heart attack on live television. Millions had applauded while a man's life faded before their eyes. The NASA disaster, the Challenger tragedy. In early 1986, the United States buzzed with anticipation. NASA had launched astronauts into space many times before, but this mission was different. Krista McAuliffe, a schoolteacher chosen from nearly 12,000 applicants, was scheduled to travel into orbit. Students nationwide were instructed to watch. Classrooms filled with televisions, excitement and hope radiated across the country. Families gathered around their televisions. Teachers explained the science and significance of the mission. The public was united in a rare moment of shared awe. The night before the launch, freezing weather swept over the Kennedy Space Center. Engineers warned that the extreme cold could compromise the shuttle's rocket booster seals. If the seals failed, disaster could strike. The warnings were serious and repeated, but months of delays, mounting public expectation, and pressure from government authorities pushed NASA to continue. The launch had already been postponed 4 times. Millions of people were prepared to witness history, and the desire to succeed seemed to outweigh caution. At 11:38 a.m. on January 28, 1986, the Challenger lifted off into a bright, cloudless blue sky. For 73 seconds, everything appeared perfect. The engines roared with power, the shuttle climbed steadily, and the astronauts waved from the cockpit. The nation cheered, captivated by the sight of Krista McAuliffe, the first civilian teacher in space.
Teacher in space Krista McAuliffe, who died in the Challenger space shuttle explosion nearly 4 decades ago, was
fulfilling a dream that inspired generations. Excitement turned to awe as viewers imagined the possibilities of space exploration. Children clutched models of rockets and dreamed of following in her footsteps. Then, the unimaginable happened. On live television, the sky exploded in a massive cloud of white and orange. Shock rippled through viewers and mission control alike. Teachers shielded students from the horror, parents gasped, and broadcasters fell silent. Challenger had disintegrated in midair. There were no survivors. The nation watched helplessly as tragedy unfolded in real time. Grief and disbelief swept across the country. Hearts broke simultaneously in homes, schools, and workplaces. President Reagan addressed the nation that evening, calling for mourning, remembrance, and reflection. NASA grounded all shuttle missions. Investigations revealed flawed designs, ignored warnings, and decisions made under immense pressure. The space program underwent complete restructuring, including booster redesigns, enhanced safety protocols, and renewed oversight. 7 lives had been lost.
We come together today to mourn the loss of 7 brave Americans.
Millions watched the tragedy unfold as dreams and hopes turned into grief. Krista McAuliffe and her fellow astronauts became symbols of both human courage and vulnerability. What do you think about these horrifying TV moments? Which one intrigued you the most?